Hello and welcome to The Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some comfort, camaraderie and conversation and keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, The Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is the clocks going forward on Mother's Day. This is your public service announcement from me to you. Request the lie-in on Mother's Day. The clocks are doing that awful spring forwards thing where we're robbed of an hour's sleep on Mother's Day. So if your little early riser wakes at 6, on Sunday, it will be 5. So what we need to do as mothers is unite, and we need to slide on in early and request in advance that lie-in. It is Mother's Day after all, and you never know, your little ones might just sleep through that god-awful change. And if I had an elusive blind sponsor at this moment, it would be perfect placement, wouldn't it? Those blackout blinds we all need. On a lighter note, I'm really looking forward to the lighter evenings. I mean, here in the UK, it's been going dark at like 3, 4, hasn't it? And it's so nice to be out of that winter grind and feel that sun of an evening and be able to go to the park after tea, you know, things that people in hot countries just take for granted. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, here's to spring. And it's a really sunny Wednesday today. It feels like spring has arrived this week, and I am constantly darting between Factor 50 sun cream and woolly jumpers. And I'm hanging the washing on the line, optimistically, for it to be rained on. But hey, it's that good old British transitional weather, and I am just so here for the sun. It makes everybody feel better, it makes everyone feel happier, and I'm seeing the daffodils and the flowers, and it's all good. And because of this change in the weather, we're going to take the girls swimming at the weekend. It's not something we really do very often. I mean, I can't do it in the week on my own. So we've decided this weekend we're going to take them swimming, and oh my gosh, the excitement, bless them. We've ordered some rubber rings on Amazon. And it's like they're just so excited, and I'm here for it. They keep asking, you know, like in November when your baby or your toddler starts to understand Christmas. We really had it this year with a 2 and a 3-year-old. And it was like, you know, the end of November, and they're like, is he coming tonight? Father Christmas. And you're like, in 4 weeks. And they don't understand the concept of time, do they, at that age? They're like, what is 4 weeks? So with swimming, they're like, is it today? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. No, it's on Saturday. And they don't know what Saturday is. So I'm like, I keep saying Saturday. And then we're driving in the car. I'm like, oh, we're going to go to the shop now. No, I want to go to the pool. I'm like, no, it's not today. So if you want any advice, maybe don't break exciting things to your toddlers too early on, because bless them, they live for those moments. And it's the cutest thing, but you feel like you're constantly letting them down. Anyway, I came across this post on a forum that I thought you'd enjoy, and it's, what's the most ridiculous thing you did as a first-time mum? So if you're feeling a bit neurotic and you're feeling like you're a bit over the top, don't worry. There is plenty of us out there. So I'll start with the first one. One time, my husband let a mosquito in the house, and I completely panicked when I couldn't find it. I was convinced that my newborn was doomed to catch some rare mosquito-borne illness. I didn't waste a second, and I packed up our things and fled to my parents' house and spent the night for a few days hoping it would either die or fly out of the house. No way was I taking any chances. Looking back, I can't believe how ridiculous I was. Classic new mum moment. Love that. Next one, took my baby to the emergency room because his breathing sounded ragged when he was 1 week old. The diagnosis, snoring. And then the comment underneath says, girl, I literally took a video of my daughter's eyes while she was a few days old drinking a bottle, thinking she was having a seizure. Diagnosis, blinking. Oh, my daughter, around age 2, fell off the couch and kept crying holding her hip, so I took her to the emergency room. She played hopscotch through the whole 6-hour wait. I was super embarrassed to be there when it was our turn, but for some reason, I didn't just go home. I kept thinking, let them have a look anyway. It might be anything. It was, in fact, nothing. The doctors there laughed at me a little, but they were very kind anyway. They were like, first time mum, right? This one made me laugh as well. Bought a changing pad secondhand because I wanted something wipeable. But it's the dead of winter in central New York, so I thought baby would be cold and uncomfortable laying on the changing mat. And surely I can't just use a changing pad cover because that would defeat the purpose of having something wiped clean. Solution? Reptile heating lamps. Anticipate when baby will need to be changed and turn on the lamp for a few minutes to warm up the changing pad, except for when it accidentally gets knocked down onto said changing pad and burns a hole through it. Oh my lord. It says, it was 3 a.m. and I was ready to murder my husband for ruining a changing pad I got for $25 and needed to find a replacement immediately. Obviously, we ended up just putting some duct tape over the hole and using some covers, a solution which has worked just fine for 2 babies over 3 years now. But my newly postpartum first-time mum brain was unhinged. Wow, heat lamps above changing tables. I mean, that is luxury for the baby, but not if it falls. Jesus wept. And this person says, heat lamps above changing tables is totally a thing in Germany. So any of my German listeners, I have never heard of that before. That is different. I've never heard of anything quite so extreme in a way. I always just change my babies on the bed in the night. That's what I've always done. And in the day, I change them on my knee. I've always changed them on my knee and I've always changed them on bed. So I've never had a changing table. I bought a changing mat, which I used to begin with, because I was like, well, that's what you need to use. And we have like a little foldable mat for when I'm out and about and there's nowhere to do it on my knee kind of thing. But I can't get my head around this reptile light thing. I can't get my head around heating up a changing mat. Obviously, yeah, you don't want to put your baby on a nice cold wipe clean mat. But wow, burning a hole in the changing mat. Jeepers creepers. Next one says, I have never felt more seen in my life on this thread. This all happened to me on the same day we brought my firstborn home from the hospital. Firstly, the doctors told us the bedroom needs to be between 19 and 21 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. The room was 23 degrees and we couldn't cool it down that 1 or 2 degrees. I lost it and thought she was going to die of overheating in her sleep. Number 2, when I was breastfeeding her, I was stroking her head like I did in those first few days and noticed that the form of her head felt different. Freaked out and drove to the hospital. What if we somehow bumped her head and didn't notice it? We got help immediately and skipped all those other kids because we had a newborn and I was raving about how there's something wrong with her skull. Oh my God. Only for them to smile and tell me, yes, that's just the skull of your baby. The head just reshapes after birth and it's normal skull development. Y'all, I was going through it. Oh my goodness. Next one is, I deep cleaned the house after anyone came to visit, even if they were 100% healthy and it was the summertime. I was convinced that just them being in my house would get my baby sick. COVID mums can relate. I'm sure first-time mums during COVID, like myself, can relate to things like that. I was very anxious around health and illnesses. And it was at a point when we didn't know what COVID would do to the baby. It was all still very new. You know, we had relatives meet our firstborn from behind the glass, which, as hard as it was and as difficult as it was, in the moment we were like, this is the right thing to do to protect our newborn. And I would do it all over again because they're just everything, aren't they? And the thought of such a little tiny thing getting an illness is scary. So I completely get the whole health anxiety thing. And I know for a few people that's continued on from COVID. I personally, I feel like I don't have that level of anxiety anymore, but I will wash my hands more than I did pre-COVID. And not that I was germy pre-COVID. wash my hands after the bathroom and everything like that. But, if I come in from outside now, I'll wash my hands. And sometimes even when I get handed a parcel, I'll wash my hands. And I think that's lasted from COVID, and having babies in COVID, I think has made us that bit more conscious than we were pre-COVID. And, in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as you're not too overly cautious, because there is the argument that we all need some germs. Otherwise, we don't have any immunity at all. So it's getting the balance, isn't it? But yeah, I totally get that. I just thought that was quite a funny, entertaining forum. And if you have any stories, any of you first-time mums out there, I know there are plenty of you listening, anything you've done that you look back now a few months or years later and go, what was I thinking? Send them in, make us all feel better. thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. Now onto the emails. And this is a lovely one. It says, ladies, a reminder. Hello, I read something the other day and thought it would be good to share on your podcast. It said, postpartum recovery isn't just the first 6 weeks. In reality, it takes 3 to 4 months for immune function to fully regulate again, at least 4 months for brain structure and function to normalise, 3 to 6 months to regain pelvic floor and abdominal strength, and up to 12 months for iron and hemoglobin levels to return to normal. Give yourself grace as you go through this time period. I love this. What a lovely thing for one of you listeners to write in. You've not put your name on here, but that is such a lovely reminder to all the many of us out there that are going through postpartum. I have it. My youngest is 2.5, and I still kind of consider myself to be in postpartum, and I'm pregnant again, so I will be fully in those early weeks and months like a lot of you are. And I think in this snapback culture we live in, it's very, very easy to just think 6 weeks and we're back to normal. And it's what we're all told, isn't it? You have your 6-week doctor's check, you get signed off for exercise and having sex again and all that kind of thing. And it's almost as if it's like, okay, then we're good to go. And it's like, no, we had a baby 6 weeks ago. It's one of the most life-changing things you go through, body, mind, soul, everything. And to think that there is this capacity for us women to just go, yeah, 6 weeks is gone, back to it. And I think partly it's because of the society we live in nowadays. I know in the US, some women get like weeks or a couple of months maternity pay and maternity leave, and they're back to it. And it's easy to go, yeah, I feel fine, I'm good, I'm back to it, I'm back to normal. But when you think your brain and your body has so much recovery to do, so much work to do before you get back to feeling, and I don't think we ever really go completely back pre-motherhood, because I do think motherhood changes you in a wonderful way, mentally, physically, but also in, a way that we have to come to terms with in some ways. And it's so good to spread messages like this, that 6 weeks is nothing. You might not feel ready to do any exercise. You might not want sex. You might not want any of those things. And that is completely normal. And it's about communication and understanding that whatever you're going through, you're raising a human. And it is the biggest job you'll ever have, isn't it? It's the most important job you'll ever have. So I love that. And remember, like the listener said, is just give yourself grace always in this time period. Next email, public service announcement to all mums. I'm a first-time mum to a little girl who is 3 months old. Wow. Just wow for all the mothers that have multiple kids, all the mothers who are doing it by themselves with absolutely no support, all the mothers who are doing it with support. You are absolutely unbelievable. My respect and love to you all. I had no idea how hard this would be. I am deep, deep, deep in the trenches with no end in sight, but I'm still in complete awe of the mums who do this shit effortlessly. Here's to all you wonderful mums. I'm sure you're doing better than you think. Oh, I love this. What another lovely, encouraging email. I love this little community we've got. Absolutely respect to everybody. And I feel the same when I became a mum. I think I don't think you quite realise how completely consuming motherhood can be, and how I always say, as absolutely wonderful as it is a non-stop thing, isn't it? Especially those first 4 months, you are 24/7 round the clock with your newborn. And yeah, to everybody, to every mother, whether you got the village or you haven't got the village, whether you're doing it on your own or you're doing it with a partner, whatever way you've got it, it is challenging at times. And it's important to recognize that and not just think, oh, it must be me, I'm finding this hard, it must just be me. And I know mothers out there struggle with varying levels of postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression. And I think it's talking like this and getting the message out there that we all have highs and lows, but some have lows to much worse extent. And it's getting the support you need, getting the help you need, and realizing there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your body and your mind and your hormones go through so much that it's important to remember it's not meant to be a walk in the park, and to remember how well you're doing, because so many mums I meet don't give themselves credit. I think we can all downplay what we're doing, and we'll be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm all good, it's all great. And you're carrying that mother's mental load every day, and you think about the micro decisions you make every minute. Jason and I were having a bit of a chat about this last night, and he works through the week, so he's in work mode and he's thinking logically through his day. And I was talking about a few different things, and he was like, wow, like it's amazing how different our brains work in a way. Like there's the kind of like functional task brain when you're in work mode. Like, I remember when I was working at a company and you're in that to-do list, functional checklist mode. But I think when you're a mum or a full-time parent at home, even if you have a checklist, nothing is predictable, is it? Every day, something will throw you off, or a new thing will happen, or a new challenge will arise that you didn't see happening. And consequently, I think your brain is wired completely different. And I think that can affect us all in different ways. And I don't think we give ourselves credit, like I said, for the amount of things we need to think about on a daily basis. And I think it's just remembering that and making sure you have a bit of time when you need it. Next tonight is what's trending. I'm seeing lots of posts lately about this, the birth I wanted versus the birth I got. And you know what? I quite like the trend. I think it helps to set expectations for first-time mums that things don't always go to plan. Sometimes I think there's a narrative that mums can kind of choose the birth they want. I mean, with my first, I remember having the option of a water birth. And I think that's originally what I wanted in a birthing centre, was a water birth, all to be very calm. I'd read a lot of benefits about that. And that was the plan. And I have spoke about this before on the podcast. But if you're new here, my first baby was induced. I went 2 weeks overdue. And consequently, I had to be in a hospital with a consultant. I couldn't be in a birthing centre. And at first, I think, when I realised that was going to happen, I was a bit gutted. I was like, oh, well, I wanted it here. And you can kind of get caught up on what you thought was going to be the birth. You thought this was going to happen. It was all going to go to plan. Everything was going to be... And in actual fact, most people I speak to end up having a slightly different birth happen to them, even if it's just a small thing, to, unfortunately, gosh, awful things. And we need to prepare ourselves, I guess. And it is difficult. It is, it can be scary, the thought that X, Y, and Z might not happen. I'm currently 31 weeks pregnant, so it is something I'm thinking about. Even when you've had 2 babies, it's still scary. It's still a big thing. It's still, well, it's a huge thing, isn't it, going into labour? And it's just remembering that I think the more relaxed you can be around the plan, the better. I think in general, the more relaxed you can be, the better. I've always been of the thought that as long as you get the baby out healthily and I stay well, I'm going with what you suggest. They're the experts. I'm happy with that. Unless there's a red flag, obviously we need to be careful. But I think that the whole trend of the birth I expected versus the birth I got is really good in reminding us of that and reminding people that maybe even aren't pregnant yet. I don't know if you'll get that on your algorithm. I'm clearly getting this algorithm because I'm pregnant. But I do like it. I think it's important. And I think it's important to know that you do make a birth plan with the midwife. And I do think that is important in terms of the medication you want. If there is anything you specifically don't want or do want during the birth, so you can advocate for yourself. And I think that's brilliant that is kind of the reason birth plans exist. However, it is important, especially for midwives, to reinstate that this isn't necessarily what's going to happen. If you go into labour 6 weeks early, things are going to be different. Or if your labour doesn't go the way we need it to, you may end up having a cesarean and that will be different. I suppose the only for sure kind of way you can plan a birth, I guess, is an elected section. If for any reason you need one or you wanted one, you kind of get your date and you kind of know that that's going to happen. But aside from that, it's open to change, isn't it? So I thought that was a really good trend, and I thought it's something that's really good to highlight, not to scare new mums or to scare first-time mums at all, more to just reassure you that if something does go slightly differently with your birth, you're not the only one, and it's completely normal for your planned, birth to take a different route. So I hope that helps, especially if you're pregnant, because I do know I have quite a few pregnant listeners that are first-time mums. So yeah. Next tonight is my self-care tip. So tonight is to put yourself first this Mother's Day. I know I shouldn't take a celebration. It shouldn't take a celebration, to remember to put yourself first. But as I said, the clocks are changing, so requests are lying. And I think really put yourself first, whether that's making time for a bath, whether that's going out for a roast dinner with the family, or just having some time on your own to binge a series. I think Mother's Day is the perfect opportunity to say, do you know what? I actually feel like doing this today. And if that's all right, I'll have an hour or two to myself and just chill, because that's what I feel like doing. And that is what I think will fill my cup for the rest of time with the kids. So yeah, I think it's good to take the opportunity and communicate and say, actually, I'm going to go and have a bath. I'm going to light some candles. I'm going to put my feet up and I'm going to have a jolly old time. And yeah, just advocating and being like, yeah, I'm going to make time for myself this weekend. Finally, to finish on a quote I wrote: before they were in your arms, they were in your heart. A wish, and now that wish is real. Their fingers curl around yours at 2 a.m. Their breath soft against your skin. Their existence proof that love can dream and make itself known. You are not just holding a baby. You are holding the miracle you once only imagined. Thank you all for listening tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful Mother's Day on Sunday. I know in the US it's celebrated on a different day, I think, but here in the UK it's this Sunday. So I hope you all, whether it's your first Mother's Day or your second or third or fourth, I hope you have a wonderful time doing whatever you want to do. And I wish you all a restful, relaxing night ahead. Good night.